All right. Well, welcome back to the first post-town meeting session of the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs here on Tuesday, March 14th. We're starting this afternoon with testimony on the miscellaneous amendments to alcoholic beverage laws, which is draft 230969. We're going to start briefly with an amendment that Representative Nugent would like to offer for the committee's consideration to attach to the bill. So Representative Nugent, do you want to quickly tee this up and then we'll have Ashley just walk us through the language?
Sure, thank you. So just knowing use rates in Vermont for alcohol are relatively high for the rest of the country, and that this is a relatively new situation of having cocktails to go, and that it hasn't been really fully evaluated yet. I wanted to offer or include in this bill a requirement to evaluate the public health impacts of this policy.
For the committee, if you haven't seen it, there's an amendment, draft 1.1, that's under Representative Nugent's name on our new page. So Ashley, will you walk us through that? Thanks for being with us.
Well, my pleasure. So for the record, my name is Ashley Angel, and I am a law clerk at the Office of Legislative Counsel. I helped to draft this report requirement under the miscellaneous alcohol bill we went over several weeks ago. The effect of this particular language is that the Department of Health, in consultation with the Department of Liquor and Lottery, would conduct a study to see what the public health impacts of these to-go cocktails are under current laws and under the provision that is set to be sunsetting this summer. So this would take place over the course of the next, oh my goodness, a year and a half or so. And it would provide information back to you all. And that's pretty much the effect of that bill, part of the bill.
Representative Morgan.
So you may have just said, Amanda, so I'm sorry if I did it. Would this, the way we have things constructed, allow it to continue pending this study, or halt it at the sunset and then pick back up if the study was positive? How are we viewing it?
So I think the idea, and Representative Nugent can speak to this, is that if we're going to eliminate the sunset, which is what we're contemplating in the bill where we left off, that we check back in after there's been a little bit more time, and that Department of Health and the Department of Liquor and Lottery can come back to us and say, what's the public health impact of having these to-go containers? Are we seeing, increased DUIs? Are we seeing, we talked about a number of different potential issues, but there wasn't a lot of data. This is relatively new. So this is basically a way to say, gather some data, report back to the legislature.
While it's continuing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. All right, great.
Any more questions for me?
I think we're all set. Representative Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In consultation with the Department of Liquor and Lottery, not the Department of Public Safety, also.
So I think we're about to hear from DLL enforcement, and they are the ones who do the compliance enforcement. Okay. So maybe that'll help answer the question, Representative Cooper. So Ashley, I think please stay with us if you can, but I'll let you out of the hot seat. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
So we do have with us Chief Janess from who's the Senior Director of Licensee Operations. So thanks for being with us here. And I think you brought Lieutenant Brandon King with you.
Yes, thank you. For the record, Skylar Janess. I am the Senior Director of Licensee Operations for the Department of Liquor and Lottery. Certainly happy to answer any specific questions relative to to-go beverage alcohol. I do just want to maybe set some potential groundwork for the data collection that we did during the period of time where this was allowed. Knowing that we had a requirement for a report to the legislature back relative to to-go beverage alcohol. We collected data in a couple different ways. First, at the time of point of inspection by liquor investigators who work out in the field enforcing Title VII laws and regulations as imposed by the board, we did collect data relative to all observed violations during those inspections for any that were relative to to-go beverage alcohol. So this could have been observations to sales to minors. This could have been sales to overly intoxicated individuals. I will report that we only had one violation reported relative to to-go beverage alcohol, and that was specifically related to the sale of that beverage alcohol without an accompanying food item. That was the only violation observed over a pretty large number, and I apologize, I don't have the N off the top of my hand, but a large number of investigations done during this, or inspections done during this time period. The second point of data that we would collect is part of our Place of Last Drink data collection program. We did look at all DUI arrests that were indicated to have come from a licensed establishment where the operator's BAC was over a 0.18%, where any crash was reported as part of that DUI arrest, or any DUI arrest where a minor was involved. We actually we initiated a separate investigation when any DUI arrest meets that criteria. And part of that investigation would be looking at if to-go beverage alcohol was involved. I will report to the committee that no DUIs investigated during our polled investigation program that met our investigative criteria were related to to-go beverage alcohol. And with that, happy to take any questions from the committee.
Representative Higley.
Yeah, thank you. And that report you did on your own without any input or help from the health department, is that correct?
That is correct. We didn't certainly liaise with the health department. I do believe the requirement for the report was for the department to report back. So these were data points that were easily collectible for us and frankly, part of our normal data collection program anyway. So we didn't consult directly with the Department of Health, or at least I didn't in culling that data for the report.
Okay, thank you.
And I wanted to ask Representative Nugent kind of on that line of thinking, if your intention is really to sort of flag that this is out there and not to have what we would consider like a big legislative study, but to actually just make sure that we as a legislature get a check back from DLL and the Department of Health to say, is this causing an issue? You know, that we're asking them to report back to us, not to do like a big multi-factor study and collect a lot of new data that they're not already collecting.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Other questions from the committee for DLL compliance and enforcement? Yeah.
Actually not for compliance and enforcement, sorry, but this is more for Representative Nugent. When we get this check back, when we get this report, what are you envisioning happening with the report? Back with some negative connotations, negative data.
Well, since it's my first year here, I'm still learning what happens, but I would hope that whatever information could help us inform future policy, or if there's any tweaks that need to be made to the current policy.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Higley.
Yeah, I guess if I could add to that too. So what this amendment is looking for is the Department of Health in consultation with Department of Liquor and Lottery. So that's you folks. So how would you folks see that collaboration working?
Well, certainly we partner with the Department of Health on a number of different initiatives, and this would be, I think, similar in that vein of collaboration. We certainly would make all data available to the Department of Health that they would have interest in. We could certainly improve our data collection techniques if the Department of Health thought that there were areas where we could better collect data or collect different data. We would be certainly willing to accommodate and support those efforts. We do this in a number of areas already. We submit a report to the legislature on a yearly basis relative to youth access to tobacco compliance. So our relationship with the health department and data collection and data reporting is existing. So we would likely just leverage normal collaboration processes and make ourselves the best available to the health department as we could.
Representative Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you, Skylar, I guess, put back in my head once again the criteria that you delineated for the report that you made on what you consider to be incidents of uptick? And particular emphasis on what you may have gotten or not gotten from DPS.
Sure. Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about how we collect that polled data, which might help inform that. So our polled program wasn't in response to go beverage alcohol. It was kind of in works prior to the 2020 legislative session. At the point of DUI arrest, we sought to add a question to the Data Master breathalyzer machine, which collects evidentiary breath samples. And we added a question to that processing device. It's a small computer. It certainly collects data around the arrest, date and time of operation, levels of BAC results from the machine. We asked a question, and the question was, did your investigation determine that the place of last drink for this arrest was a licensed liquor establishment or permitted event? And the arresting officer simply answers yes or no to that data, or to that question. Once the process occurs, once the arrest processing has finished, that data is transmitted to the Vermont Forensic Laboratory via their network. And we developed a reporting tool that twice a day submits an emailed report to the Department of Liquor and Lottery with any responses yes to that question. And it gives us metadata around that arrest, the arresting officer, the case number, and if it met a triage criteria for us. So I would like to say that we had the resources to investigate all yes answers to that question. The reality is that we do not. We have 12 liquor investigators who work across the state. This is only part of the work that they do, but we do believe important part of the work that they do. So in order to ensure that we could allocate resources best to address the problem, we established a bit of triage criteria to those arrests. So again, that criteria was any BAC that was greater than a 0.18% alcohol by volume, any crash where the arrest was initiated by a motor vehicle crash, and any time the operator was under 21 years of age, we would initiate an investigation. So there certainly were yes answers to that question, meaning DUI arrests where a place of last drink was a licensed establishment that was that did not meet that triage criteria. But we did want to ensure that we were allocating resources to the most serious of those DUI arrests. So of those DUI arrests, we did an independent investigation, and none of those cases, those that met our criteria, involved to-go beverage alcohol. We just don't have the resources to look at every single DUI arrest with a yes answer. It is possible that there were to-go beverage alcohol related incidents that didn't meet our investigative triage criteria, meaning a lower BAC in particular. So I can't report on that, but I can say any BACs that were greater than roughly, greater than 0.18%, none of them were related to-go beverage alcohol.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So my question for the committee is if we, in our penultimate or ultimate draft of our miscellaneous alcohol policy bill here, if we'd like to support including this amendment, I just wondered if I could get like a straw poll from the committee. I think it'll be a check back that doesn't cost us a whole lot. Feeling pretty good about it. All right. Great. Well, thank you, Representative Nugent, for bringing that to us. So I want to check in with Legislative Counsel here. Ashley, I think you're taking the lead on this. If we wanted to add this to a new draft of the committee bill, how much time would you need to kind of show us a draft with this amendment and the three other pieces as a combined complete.
20 to 30 minutes, so we can't.
Great. So I think what we'll do probably is maybe allow, unless there are any more questions about the compliance and enforcement pieces. Yes, Representative Chase.
I have one not related to the amendment, but I think before we went on break, I had the question, if somebody is ordering multiple meals to go, were they allowed to pick up multiple beverages for a group or whatever, or is it specifically 2 beverages regardless of how many meals a person's collecting?
Is that question, I'm sorry, is that question?
Yeah, sorry. It was suggested that we ask enforcement, so yes,
Understood.
please.
Apologies. Yeah, the way I understood, and I certainly could ask Lieutenant King to chime in, but the way I understood it was 2 drinks per person per order as part of the statutory change.
Okay, so if a single individual was picking up, half a dozen meals for their family or whatever, they could get a dozen beverages.
Or is it the individual at the point of purchase?
No, because that directly interferes with our general regulation that says you can only have two alcoholic beverages per person at any one time. So regardless of the amount of food that the person would be picking up, if there was a single individual picking up multiple meals, they would only be allowed per regulation to pick up 2 alcoholic beverages.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Representative Moore.
Just to double down on this, just to make sure before Tucker goes back, is we did determine that hard cider is hard cider. Hard was good. Alcoholic didn't need to be present,
I
correct?
think we should have a little committee discussion on the pieces of the bill that we kind of left it while we have Ashley and Tucker work on the draft, just so we're all kind of in the same headspace, if that works for everybody.
Sure.
So I think what I'd like to do is say, are there any remaining questions for our compliance and enforcement professionals who are here? Because if we're going to talk about things like hard cider, I just want to let them off the hook.
What do you guys think?
Any other questions from the committee? Well, Chief, and
I just wanted to ask one more little point of detail on that last piece with the point of purchase. So if there were 2 individuals picking up, it could be 2 drinks per person for a total of 4, but it's all about the individuals present at the point of purchase.
That's correct.
And pickup.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
but they also have to have food.
Yes, yeah, no, of course with the food, yes. So there has to be a food presence for the,
Not here just for the drinks.
correct. But it's just like, so 3 bodies, 6 drinks, 2 bodies, 4 drinks, 1 body, 2 drinks. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that is great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last call.
No pun intended.
Everybody says we're the fun committee.
We are.
Living up to the reputation. Chief Janess, Lieutenant Ken, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Really appreciate your testimony here today. Take care.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
All right. So I think what we should do, committee, is I wanted to talk through some of the things that are going on elsewhere in the bill, like the hard-sided question. I think we have resolved that, but I just want to get everybody on the same page. And Tucker and Ashley could incorporate that amendment into a complete draft, and we'll pick that back up after our committee discussion here. So Representative Chase, so let's start with the hard-sided question that Representative Morgan brought up. You had pitched us on the idea that we swap the word alcoholic to describe cider that contains alcohol instead of the word hard.
Yep. Tucker's research was far more in depth than mine, as one might expect, and he pointed out that it was in fact a term in statute elsewhere.
Industry term.
So I'm okay with leaving it as hard cider.
We're feeling good about hard cider.
Back to the term of art.
All right. Good. So, getting back to the bill itself, were there any other, the biggest points of discussion for us as a committee were around, the new to-go law and the repeal of the sunset. It seemed like we were in pretty good shape on the other elements. But are there any outstanding kind of questions on any of these elements? So we've addressed the hard cider question. The festival permits pieces, I think we're pretty straightforward. Been deep on the repeal of the sunset. So any,
So we're pretty cut and dry.
great. Well, if there aren't any remaining questions on this bill, what I'd like to do is break until 2. I'd like to encourage everybody to take a look at the latest draft of the bill we'll be looking at after we wrap up our work on this miscellaneous alcoholic beverages. So that's our draft committee bill with the 0907. That's about the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission. We're going to be taking testimony on that next, starting at 2:30. So we'll come back to this bill at 2:00, take an early break, let Ledge Council do their magic, come back at 2 to hopefully wrap up our work on this. And then we'll start our work on the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission bill. A bunch of stakeholders got together to try to iron out compromises on some of the issues we heard there were concerns on. The new draft that is up on our committee page. I believe this is the one under Sarah Robinson's name, draft 3.2. Oh, sorry, that's her testimony on it. It's under Tim's name, sorry. Yes, she's got the right number, but her testimony is about the draft. It's under Tim's name with the 0907. Just want to make sure we're, yeah. So that bill seeks to, or that new draft, this version of it seeks to incorporate some of the compromises that the stakeholders were trying to make. And so we'll hear a lot about that, but I just wanted to orient everybody to what's next on the agenda. So we've got, we'll pick the miscellaneous alcohol bill up at 2. After that, we'll work on this Domestic Violence Fatality Review Committee recommendations on law enforcement officer training. And then we have a little tiny bill that's about notaries in Department of Corrections facilities. So a 3-bill afternoon, and really appreciate everybody being able to do our Gov.Ops thing, hopping from topic to topic, but it is crossover